Hello, Michael Swain here after Kansas football's 38-14 loss to Iowa State here in Jack Trice Stadium. And all things considered, that was a terrible performance from Kansas in what has been a hugely underwhelming season for the Jayhawks. And it says a lot that here we are after game 11 of the season. And the same issues that you've seen throughout the course of this year are still popping up for Kansas, especially off a bye week. And let's just start right there. In Kansas, off a bye week, has a week to prepare for what is the biggest game of the year. Kansas is trying to make a bowl game, to get back to a bowl game. It's not something that's happened a lot over the last 15 years. And to come out so flat, look so unprepared, off a bye week, is just hugely disappointing to see for this team and for this program, especially at this point in time. Iowa State looked more prepared. They looked like they wanted it more, and they took full advantage. And Kansas has consistently been bad in this time slot. The time that the game starts shouldn't matter, right? And yet Kansas is here now, 2-9. It's last 11 a.m. kickoffs. So this is not a new thing for Kansas this year. 11 a.m. kickoffs, KU's consistently not ready to play. They've lost 5 straight. This year, you got the K-State game, you got the Cincinnati game. You can go back to last season, right? You got the Baylor game at the end of the season. You've got West Virginia. You can go back to 2023, Texas Tech. I'll bring that game up again here in just a second. But it's one of those situations for KU where top to bottom, it wasn't good enough. The players didn't play well. KU's game plan clearly was not good enough. And managerially, you can poke holes in some of the stuff. So look, let's just start from the beginning of the game, right? KU's defense needed to be gap sound in this game. Iowa State has 2 pretty good running backs. Their offensive line is solid. They've really leaned on their run game as Rocco Becht has had some struggles recently. You knew Iowa State was going to come out and try and run the ball. And what happens on the first couple plays of the game? Poor gap discipline. Guys are running wide open into gaps, getting chunk gains. And KU's secondary in this game, I think, had to have just a solid game, right? Rocco Becht, as of late, has really struggled. More turnovers than touchdowns, and his completion rate has been under 60%. He's just had a bad stretch. And today, he finishes going 18-23 for 241 yards with 3 touchdowns. So KU was not gap sound. The secondary did not make Iowa State's perfectly fine wide receiver room look like a perfectly fine wide receiver room. They looked better than that. And so defensively, there's no platform for Kansas. And here you are against an Iowa State team that scored about 20 points a game over the last 4 games of Big 12 play. They put 38 points up today. And so defensively for this Kansas team, right, what are the issues been this year? It's been the gap discipline, and it's been cushion. Well, Lance Leipold talked about at postgame that the guys aren't playing with a lot of confidence, and that at times they were just playing with too much cushion. He made the comment that, teams have not really tried to throw over the top. And then he followed that up by saying, well, maybe that's just because they're giving up so much cushion. And guys have so much space to run their routes. KU tweaked some stuff in the second half, didn't make a huge amount of difference. But again, we're in game 11 of the football season. The stuff you saw against Missouri, i.e. cushion, i.e. bad gap discipline, it's still here. And that comes down to coaching, especially off a bye week. Offensively, it was super poor. You can look top to bottom. There was a low possession first quarter, right? KU has 1 possession, and then they drive and have the field goal. Did it get blocked? I've not seen a replay of that yet, but whatever. The field goal's short. Offensively, everything for KU, to me at least, felt like it was to the outside, short of the sticks. There were not deep shots taken down the field. And so how are you expected to move the ball consistently if you're not pushing the defense off of you? And all Iowa State had to do was just drop 5-6 yards, let the receiver catch it, and all of a sudden you break to the ball, boom, it's a 5-yard reception. 3 or 4 times on second down that happened. And so just the game plan for KU wasn't good enough. What changes in the second half? Oh my gosh, a throw over the top. You've got guys that can get open deep. Emmanuel Henderson was open 3 times in the first half. I counted. We've got a great view here in the press box that I'm fortunate enough to be here for. Emmanuel Henderson was wide open multiple times down the field. Jalen Daniels did not push the ball down the field. So, look, That's how you put up 0 points in the first half. And this is where that Texas Tech game from 2023 comes in handy. It's the first time since that game that Kansas has gone scoreless in a first half. It's just bad. It's just bad. And so then KU in the second half, to get some stuff going offensively, that's perfectly fine. But then the defense just can't get a stop. And so look, offensively, not good enough. Defensively, not good enough. And then if you want to talk about some of the decisions, look, at the end of the first half, 23 seconds left. KU has 3 timeouts. They're down 17-0. Lance Leipold explained at postgame. I understand his perspective, but the lack of aggressiveness there is just a little bewildering. He explained that, hey, look, there's 23 seconds left. Iowa State has timeouts. The last thing you want to do is, after having the punt go, or the long snappers, snap go over the punter's head, the last thing you want to do is backed up, for you to go and have that happen again and have Iowa State tee off. Sure, I understand that. But also, you got to have a little bit of risk if you're going to win games, or if you're going to come down from 17 points down against an Iowa State team that was looking to control the clock. At the end of the game, the time of possession, 39 minutes for Iowa State, 21-ish minutes for KU. It's just one of those situations where it's just another example of KU being really conservative in key moments. And it's hard to win games and overcome deficits like that if you're not going to take risks. You know who took risks today? Matt Campbell. 3 touchdowns on 4th down today. 3. 4th and 2, 4th and 1, 4th and 6. That's aggressive play calling. That's play calling to go try and win the game on senior day. KU didn't really have opportunities on 4th down and short, outside of what would have been on the field goal for Lath Marjan when Daniels tries to throw it to Pickett in the end zone. That was the closest thing to maybe a go-for-it situation for KU if they'd gotten maybe a little bit closer. But look, it's a lot of the same issues you've been seeing for 2 years now. And look, Leipold said post-game that they're evaluating everything, that you got to look at who's coaching, right? Because he went back to it. KU defensively specifically is where he mentioned it. Defensively, Kansas has to be coached better, right? You've got players that are out of the gaps. That's coaching. Can you get your guys to be in the right spots? You got guys backing off, giving too much cushion when maybe they shouldn't. That's coaching. How can you cultivate confidence and make sure those guys understand where they need to be? It's just stuff like that. And then you can look at the 4th down play, right? The one where I think Bramer's in the end zone. It's a little pop pass to him. Leipold said they saw that on tape. And yet the guy was still wide open. There are just things here that come back to coaching. Sure, you can look at the players and situations, right? You got to go out and execute. But the head coach is also mentioning that they got to evaluate the coaching here too. So look, 1 game left for Kansas, and it's against a Utah team that has been beating everybody since they lost to BYU, and that's the really Texas Tech and BYU. That's not 2 bad losses. Those are perfectly fine losses for Utah, and they've been blowing everyone out. The K-State-Utah game is going on right now, so I have no idea what's going on or what the score is. But look, that's a really good team, and that's going to be a really hard game for Kansas. KU's probably going to be a 2-touchdown underdog. It could be more, depending on how much Utah beats K-State by. That's going to be really hard to win your 6th game. And if all of a sudden you're talking about 2 straight seasons of 5-7 after a 9-win season, and then you look ahead to next year and all the situations that are going to be going on between the stadium being rebuilt, limited capacity, KU's got to go to London in the middle of the year, you're going to have a first-year starting quarterback. Man, it's not a great spot. Not a great spot for KU to be in, and that is why, top to bottom, a game like this is so concerning. Because this was it. This was KU's shot. I don't want to be like hyperbolic and make it sound like it's the end of the world, but look, there's a very good chance Kansas is not going to a bowl game for 2 straight years. And for a head coach that showed that you can do it at Kansas, right, it's not good enough. And Leipold has said so, right? He said Kansas has to be a consistent bowl team. 2 straight years and potentially 3 straight years, right? That's not consistently making bowls, so it's not good enough. Where does KU go? Who knows? We'll see after the season what sort of changes are made, if changes are made. Too early to say. I think something's got to change, though. You can't run this back. You can't do the same thing and expect different results. Just my opinion, though. So I'd encourage you, though, go listen to Lance Leipold's post-game press conference. Probably one of his more I want to say frustrated, but pound the table press conferences I think he's had after a loss. I thought he was really good. Said some really interesting things too. So make sure you're checking out that video on the YouTube channel. Transcripts up on fog.net, so make sure you're checking that out as well. Thanks always for watching these videos. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Got plenty more coming. Basketball season is heating up. Obviously, one more game for football. It's been an interesting season, and that's the blessing of where Kansas football is at now. You know, I remember, what was it, 2021, covering the game here, and it was a total blowout. You know, and then you go to 2023 and it's a different result, and this year, you know, it's another closer one to 2021, but still, okay, football, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. So thanks always for watching. We'll talk to y'all later.